People always say luck. You got to get lucky. There's some luck that's got to be involved in business. And I don't think it's luck. I think it's the acronym for luck, which is laboring under correct knowledge. When you labor under the correct knowledge that's given to you by folks that maybe you're following, maybe you're coaching somebody where I'm helping give them that correct knowledge. When you labor under correct knowledge, you get lucky. If you keep doing the right things over and over again, you get quote unquote lucky. You don't get lucky if you're not doing the right things or laboring and putting in the work, putting in the effort.
Welcome back to the Strategic Life Podcast. It's your host, Jay Caveron here, and I am in the studio of LifeBrand in Pennsylvania. And the reason I'm here is because this human is building this company to literally $1 billion plus exit, where just a few years ago, he didn't even know that this could be possible. He has no technology background. This is a tech-based company helping you basically clean up and optimize your social media, your presence, so there's not those little random things that could come up and, mess with your brand, your integrity. And, I met this man, it was over a month ago at a networking event. I tell you so many times how important it is to just make one connection, one experience that, whether it's 30 seconds or you have 30 minutes to talk, how do you leave that presence? Well, I met this man in less than 1 minute, got connected on social media. He saw my social media, built some integrity, and we started a conversation. Told him that I'm on the East Coast doing a trip. I'd love to interview him. And he was like, absolutely. And that meant so much to me. And so I want you to make sure that you can tune into this one because we go over literally the whole gamut of how he did his investments with people believing in him to give money when there was really nothing to give to, but they believed in the person behind it. How he went from literally having to sell stuff in his house just a few years ago to just make ends meet when he was about to get $1 million and then the whole world closed with the pandemic, and how that kept his family close, and him and his wife and his kids. Like, what were the things that held that together? And just the mindset of just being an entrepreneur. We go into so many areas. You're definitely going to want to take notes on this. You're going to probably want to replay this one because there's so much wisdom in it. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest to the show today, TJ Colaiezzi. Dude, this is such a unique setup because we just did a 45-minute episode on your podcast, and I'm actually happy you did that because it kind of got me warmed up and you got warmed up, and now we're just gonna rip it here. So
maybe we should switch seats or something. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's all good. But TJ, man, it's great to have you here, brother. And we're in your own studio, as you guys can see, watching YouTube live. You'll see this if you're listening in. I recommend just go tune in on YouTube as well. But I'm here in Pennsylvania, my friend, and it's only for one reason only, is to interview you because of your LifeBrand company, what you got. You're working with social media. I mean, dude, let's just get right into it. Like, what is this LifeBrand company all about?
Great question. LifeBrand is becoming the world leader in social media education, detection, and prevention. Our whole goal is to help people from themselves when it comes to social media.
I like that.
Everybody has posted something maybe out of color or out of context when they were younger that they want deleted or removed, or that could hurt their brand or reputation. And we're trying to help those people. Look, there's some bad people on social media that deserve to be canceled. Most people that get in trouble, though, because the things they post are good people like me or you that maybe posted something when we were 15 that we forgot about. I jokingly tell people all the time, I'm 45 years old. Social media didn't exist when I was 18, 19, 20. And thank God it didn't. Because I can't imagine what I would have been posting at 18, 19, and 20 and how that would reflect on me. So we help average people, but also large companies find stuff on social media and remove it. Our average user deletes over 18 posts from their social media after scrubbing it from inception. The average user, 18. That means you, me, chances are all your listeners on average have 18 things that they
that's wild too, because I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, like I'm not a bad guy. Like what are they going to remove? But for the average user, then that's like, oh shoot.
And I'm so glad you said that because everybody thinks that. They think right off the bat the worst. They think racist, homophobic. They're like, well, I'm not a bad person. There's nothing bad on my social media. Most of the stuff on people's social media isn't bad like that. It's just things that they're like, does this align with who I am as an adult? Do I really need this? Maybe it's immature content. Maybe it's a female that's in a strong business setting that is working hard to make a good name for herself. And she's just like, do I need a picture of me in a bikini? One of the first things people see when they're searching me, is that going to discredit who I am as a female executive? Or are they just going to look at my body? There's so many different things that come up, and I can go through examples that some of our users have found, but it's never horrible stuff.
Go through. I mean,
I'd love to give you, a great example I can give you is.
I hope you didn't search mine up yet.
We work with a lot of professional sports teams as clients, and one of the teams we worked with, one of their very high level executives, he's on the C-suite, and I never mentioned him by name or the team, but he's on the C-suite for a professional sports team. When we first started working with that team, he's like, you don't need to scrub my social media. I'm in my 60s. I never posted anything dumb. I'm like, but let's just do it. Because the whole point is to be preventative on it.
Yeah.
I always make the comparison. If you wait till your house catches fire to make sure you have fire insurance, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like you can't call mid-fire and insure that house. Well, you can't mid-PR crisis take away something on your social media.
It looks even worse when you do that.
Yeah, it's even worse. So we scanned his social media, and him, like everyone else, he's like, I have nothing bad on there. I'm a good person. Well, one of the posts was from 10 years ago, and it said, and it was another team in the league. Now, not the worst post in the world. Probably wouldn't have gotten him fired. But I can tell you, any of the major professional sports leagues don't want a high-level executive from one team saying F another team, because they're all in it together. It just would have been a bad look. Another one of his posts was calling a local reporter a nitwit and an idiot. And when you went back and looked at the Twitter exchange, they were actually having fun with each other, raising money for a charity.
But out of context.
Out of context, he's bullying the reporter.
And we know how that works nowadays.
Right. Man. He was mortified by both of those posts. And he was like, TJ, I don't think either of them would have got me fired. But it certainly would have had the owner of our team or the GM come into my office and be like, yo, what are you thinking? It would have made them question my decision-making ability. And I think it would have ultimately hurt my career trajectory. Those are the types of things that people find. I mean, I had a picture on my own social media of avocado toast. And the caption said, bangin' ass avocado toast. I mean, nothing, I don't think any of you out there would say, you know what, I'm boycotting LifeBrand.
Can we patent that?
Because he loves that avocado toast. But I also said, does the CEO of a company really need a picture of banging ass avocado toast on his social media? And I think the answer to that was no. So I deleted that. And it all comes back to your personal brand. We're not just trying to help people remove dumb stuff from their social media. We're trying to help them realize that you have a personal brand thanks to your social media. We're trying to help big companies realize that if you have 5,000 employees that work for you, you have 5,000 micro brands that represent your company. You have spent maybe decades or hundreds of millions of dollars to build your company's brand.
And one person could just
started working for you a month ago could ruin it. That micro brand, like it or not, is a representation of your brand.
Yeah.
And companies are realizing that. They're saying, hey, we need to invest in those micro brands. And whether they force their employees to use it or not, most don't. We have to at least make it available to them. Let's at least try to mitigate some of that risk. If only 40% of our employees do it, great. We're 40% less likely to have a PR issue.
Yeah. Oh man, when do I start? When do I run the software? Like I'm a little nervous.
Everybody should do it.
You know, you listening right now, you're probably like, you better show the results, Jake. And but it's so true. Like look, I've started off as a fitness dude, and I'm like, there's a lot of shirtless photos. I'm like, that's not who I am.
You don't need that. Couple. Maybe not 30 of them.
I've cleaned up a lot of them, dude. Going back to that and trying to delete on Instagram takes time. So to have a system that does that, honestly, makes so much sense. Like, can we just put like a certain thing where I say anything where there's like nips showing?
Actually, you know what? You can. We do have a custom dictionary that you can tell it what to look for.
Oh, man.
So like, even if we have a lot of people that use that custom dictionary that broke up with maybe a girl named Amy, and they're like, you know what? Let me put Amy's name in there.
So cool.
And just make sure there was nothing I posted before that was bad about Amy. Or maybe I want to remove the stuff that she's the love of my life. So when I meet someone else, they don't see that. I mean, there's more socially fun ways you can use our tech too than just protecting your brand and image.
This is such a good, and I was telling you off camera, even on your episode, this is one of the most beautiful business models because it literally plug and plays for every type of industry. And the way you're talking too, it's like, look, if you're not already getting sold on this, then keep listening in because you will. But that's not the point of it. What he's actually doing, and this is so good about it, is you're just giving value. Everyone listening, whether you use this company or not, you could go in there and start being like, oh, shoot, maybe I should get rid of that thing.
Yeah.
But now you have a solution that makes it faster and easier. It's an incredible model.
And we want everybody. And look, obviously, I started a business. I'm here to make money.
Of course.
But really, we just want everyone to go and help themselves. We even offer a free check. Anybody can go to our website and get a free social media check, kind of like a free credit check. You can go to lifebrand.life, connect your social media accounts. Right now, we do Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah.
Within weeks, we'll also be doing LinkedIn and TikTok. TikTok, I can't wait to see what comes from that.
Man.
But
all you dancers out there, I don't care if you have clothes on or clothes off, you better take those down.
We will, for free then, scan your social media from inception using our artificial intelligence. And we don't delete anything because sometimes people ask us why we don't automatically delete harmful content. That's censorship. We want no part of that.
Yeah.
Our goal is just to flag things that could potentially get you in trouble. And if you want to keep it, fine. So we'll display everything for you for free. We only show you 2 of them because you got to pay for them to see all of them. But we'll give you an idea. We'll tell you, hey, Jake, you have 80 potentially harmful posts. Here's 2 of them.
Yeah.
You can unlock to see the rest. But
that's such a good hook. And let's get tactical on that because people in business, you need to have something that gets people in the door, gives them a taste of what it looks like. And then basically, hey, if you want the service, we showed you the value. We hit a pain point. That's what I talk about in influence. You got to disturb the herd a little bit.
Right.
I'm not really disturbed right now until I hear some of those stories. But for me, I'm like, do I need LifeBrand? You may be listening as well. Do I need LifeBrand? But once they give you this free value, I don't lose anything, no sacrifice. And you show me 2 posts, I'm like, oh, I'm a little disturbed. Now I want to buy.
Now you got to look because if it says you have 80 potentially, and then you saw 2 and you're like, well, you know what? I would probably delete those 2. What are the other 78?
Yeah. So that hook right there of how you did your business model, when did you actually implement that? Was that right away or was that an idea that came up? It was almost
from the very beginning. When we first built this and had our first working prototype and we had the first couple people going through using it, I noticed that it was flagging stuff on everybody. Even people that I thought had a good personal brand. I mean, I had gone through and manually cleaned up mine and I couldn't believe how much stuff I missed. But also sometimes it takes a different point of view or opinion to flag it. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't think that it could be construed that way. I see why it got flagged. Maybe I should delete it. But we realized that if anyone should care about their brand and their reputation. Yeah. And more personal brands are becoming relevant. I tell people all the time, social media is not going anywhere. Yeah. 5 years from now, it might look different than it looks today. It might be more metaverse based. Meta or Twitter might not be the big players. But the idea of people creating, sharing, and connecting online and creating online is not going away. More and more, it's going to become prevalent that you need a personal brand that not only do you not want your social media to hurt you, but it can help you.
Oh, I mean.
So if someone sees those harmful posts, and I mean, it's not like it costs hundreds or thousands of dollars to upgrade. It's $10.
Yeah.
For $10, you're not going to unlock it to see what other potentially harmful content
it's $10
is on there. It is $10.
Bro.
And then it's only $4 a month to keep maintaining it.
Come on now.
We are not here to get rich off cleaning up your social media. But again, think about it. Millions of people will be eventually doing it. And we also sell it to big companies. That's our main bread and butter. But we wanted to make sure if you're looking to go apply for a job, I don't know if you know this or not, but Career Builder has done a study. SHRM, the Society for Human Resources Management, Indeed, all these different studies show that over 90% of employers look at your social media during the hiring process. But a lot of people that are looking for a job might not have a lot of money. I wanted to make this an affordable price that if you're hard up, you're looking for a job, you can come up with $10.
Yeah.
For $10, you can clean up your social media and give yourself
every
a shot
single
at getting that
person,
job.
especially you listening right now, like, let's be real. If you're listening to the Strategic Life podcast, you got $10.
We're hoping, yes.
Stop eating those $5 footlongs for 2 days and you're good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or you can borrow $10 literally from a stranger on the street. They would give you $10.
They would.
Go clean up your social media.
And then you could go back and tell them how it really helped your brand.
Exactly.
And they'd feel really good.
Yeah.
Dude, that's wild, man. I really do like that. So like the nugget here is in your company, you're a consultant, you're an entrepreneur, you're still working 9 to 5, maybe you have a side hustle, network marketing company, whatever it is. How do you lower that barrier to entrance so people can get an idea to see, oh, this person's not just another coach. They actually know how to coach me, my body. You give them a 7-day program? Do you allow them to see what a nutrition plan would look like? Do you let them, get a free appraisal for your finances, whatever that is? You guys already know I'm a business consultant. I have an impact analysis. I basically allow you to fill out some info. It's not just where you're putting your email and number and I'm going to spam you a crap, but it's actually business stuff. But it takes a lot of time of my side of building out a game plan to show you what's possible, because I work with many different industries. They could look at me, well, how can you help a real estate person? How can you help someone in finances? That's what's similar to what you're doing. Is I created this hook that is only value-based. It really disturbs the hurt in a good way. And now it's like, it only makes sense to do business, $10.
Yeah. And I think, for, any of your listeners out there that are in business, there's a lot of different ways you can make your living. Some people would rather just sell fewer things at much higher price points.
Mm-hmm.
Other folks would rather sell much more lower price points where they can maybe help more people, or there's a lower barrier to entry. What we learned on the last podcast that you and I filmed together for our podcast, Not Suitable for Work, we both have a fitness industry background.
Yeah.
Well, think about that at the fitness industry side. There's really high-end clubs like Lifetime Athletic that Vinny, our producer here, worked at. And that's actually how we met there, was a trainer there.
All about connection.
They are more about, we're going to charge you $180 a month. We're not looking to pack our gym. We want you to have room. We're going to give you the best possible amenities. And then there's other gyms out there like a Planet Fitness or a Crunch Fitness or a Retro Fitness that are all about lower price point, higher volume. They're actually called HVLP is what they call those kinds of gyms. HV, I just thought, high volume, low price.
Yeah.
They're all about and they're different business models. They both work different ways. Now in the fitness industry, I don't like that because it's not about results. And that's what got me out of not wanting to work for a gym like that. That's a different story, but there's different ways to do it. So anyone that has a business, for us, it was more about, we want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
I don't want to just help the 1% that can afford what we're doing. I want to help as many people as possible. And I know so many people could benefit from this that even at a ridiculously low price point, we can make a lot of money. So it works for us. Now, for other people's businesses out there, it doesn't work because you're like, you couldn't do that because then you're not giving people their actual quality they deserve, the time and attention they deserve. So it depends on what you're doing. But knowing that at the beginning, I think is important helping someone start a business. What is your goal? Is your goal to help as many people as possible? And if you can do it in a scalable way with us through AI, then great.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to help people on a one-to-one level, well, then we're going to have to help less people, but at much better quality.
So good, dude. That's business wisdom right there. You talk about like the minimum viable product, right? The MVP.
Yeah.
Talk about that. So people maybe that don't understand that yet, but like, what was that for you? And like, how would someone find like the MVP in their company?
Jake, I got a great story about that when it comes to MVP. And as you just said, that stands for minimal viable product. So in the tech world or in a lot of different worlds, it means what's the minimal thing you could build that's viable, it's workable, and it's demonstratable to either a client that you can get some initial beta tests or to an investor that you can raise money. When I first started this, not having been in the tech industry, having been in the fitness industry, one of the very first phone calls we were on, it was about a year into me starting this, and we were trying to raise money. I mean, we had no money as a company because though we had this great idea, everyone kept saying, well, prove you can do it. Prove you can get the permissions you need from the social media giants. I'm like, well, it costs money to prove it. So like it was, but it was my first ever call with like a big time hedge fund and money person. One of our advisors had introduced me to him. I'm like, all right, I know we have a great idea. I know he's going to want to give me money. Here we go. So we're on the call and we're talking about the product. And he's like, so TJ, what's your MVP look like? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm our most valuable player. And I just hear this silence. I would have said the same thing. And I hear our advisor, Carrie, go, ugh. No. And then a second later, one of the lines goes dead. The person just straight up hung up at that point. No. And I'm like, what? And Carrie's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, but I am. We only have 2 employees. I have to be our most valuable player. He's like, you dumb. That's not what that stands for. It stands for minimal viable product. And I'm like, what's a minimal viable product? No. And he's just like, oh my God. But like, how would you know that if you've never been in that space before? And I always tell that story to show how far we've come. But yeah, I mean, a minimal viable product is so essential. If you're building something that's an actual tangible product, you need to be able to demonstrate it to somebody on a very low level. Because then once you prove it can work and you can get some feedback and test it and user tests, Then you can go raise money to make it better. Then you build your 2.0 version or 3.0
Is this
version.
only tech related, or is
No,
it
it can
anything?
be for anything.
Let's
Any business.
What about, let's say, someone that's in finances? They're helping people with finances.
If your goal is to help them in finances, you need to come up with what the minimal viable thing is that's going to offer a service to them.
So it could still be a service thing.
It could be a service.
Okay.
It could be, if you're going to work with me, or if I got to prove to my first couple customers that I'm of value to them, what's the minimal thing I can provide to them that they would pay for and see value in? And though nobody wants to be, I want to give them the minimum amount I can, you have to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
So at what point is the minimum amount? And remember, it says viable. So it's still got to be viable and a good product. What's my starting point? And anybody needs to know what that starting point is. So if you're in finance and your goal is to help educate them on maybe how they can save some money on their taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the first key things that you're going to make sure every person gets? You're going to say that, hey, we need to start tax planning earlier in the year, because if you wait until after the year is passed, you can't change anything. If we start tax planning maybe and guys, I'm not a financial expert, so please don't listen to what I'm saying. I'm trying to give an example.
It's all example.
If we can start tax planning in August and see what our tax liabilities are going to be at the end of the year, and we say, okay, you're going to owe $1 million. So to get rid of that, we're going to need to go spend $4 million so that we have at least $4 million write-off that eliminates the $1 million you owe. Go spend $4 million more this year that you were planning on spending early next year to eliminate that tax liability.
So the minimum viable product for that example would be the actual just service of from August.
Yeah, maybe knowing what the plan is. So at a minimum amount, we're going to tax plan for this year so that maybe I can help you avoid some tax liabilities before the end of the year.
Okay.
In the fitness space, a minimal viable product, if you're going to work with me as a trainer, hey, at an absolute minimum, I know I'm going to work you out twice a week.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a routine to do on your own. I'm going to give you a nutrition plan to follow on your own. You need to at least know what your base is. And then you build off of that base. And you might change that base. In the tech world, we keep building off of what we've built.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, important to know when you're starting a business to build a foundation that can be built upon. And whether it's tech, whether it's in the service industry, if you're going to build upon it, you need to make sure that initial foundation is strong. And the best example I can give is if you build if you're a contractor and you build this beautiful rancher home, and it's a nice rancher, you have, your concrete foundation in your basement. Yeah, maybe one day that foundation is strong enough to build a second story on it for an addition. But it's going to start getting a little shaky if you try to put a third or a fourth floor on that. And you're certainly not going to be able to build a 90-story skyscraper, because the foundations for something like that go hundreds of feet beneath the surface, much wider, much thicker, much stronger. So just keep in mind, you can start building one level at a time, but make sure the foundation can support growth over time and verticals over time. Again, if you're building a house, have enough land around you that you can expand it somewhere.
Right. So, and that's such a mindset thing that you're a living example. I'm trying to do the same, but I know you're listening right now. Like we try to get the quick fix, because I just like to speak through how our brain works. We want dopamine hits. Like we want the quick money hacks, the way to just, have a customer and you acquire them, but you can't retain them because you just want to make that upfront money. But it's like we focus on building that maybe 1 or 2 story house foundation, but it's the people that build deep that they don't see the results. We hear these motivational things all the time, like the roots are going deep, and then, years later you finally see the seed, or like palm trees or the bamboo, they sprout, inches a day once they finally, but like, that's the truth of it, and you have an example. I want to have your story to back that up. But like, if you're in a situation right now where you're not seeing the fruits of your labor yet, realize and maybe look, retrospectively, like, are you building the foundation? Because the foundation is the dirty work. That's the hard work, and this is also maybe a fine balance I would love for you to touch up on is don't build so deep thinking you're going to build this empire that you never build the empire, right? Some people are always like preparing and they're always learning and growing, but they're not actually acting on it. So now you're building deeper and deeper and deeper, but you don't actually finally build the castle. Like you can build a deep enough foundation, start building on that, but then also start adding to that foundation. You might have to start excavating areas around it and stack it up. So there is this like almost nice rhythm between that and balance. And I don't really like saying the word balance, but it kind of is. But that's a great example. So my takeaway for people and you listening is don't feel bad if you see other people building their skyscrapers and you don't have yours yet. because those skyscrapers might be on a 2-story foundation.
Right.
And
Build
it's going to
something
crumble.
that can last. And also, there's nothing wrong at the beginning with telling people you're at the beginning. Because if you try to act like you have it all figured out, or you're perfect, or this is the best product out there, when there's glitches along the way or hiccups along the way, now you set an improper expectation. Like with us, our technology is still new. It's still learning. There's a chance you're going to go to our website one day and get an error message. When we onboard big, large companies, I tell them, hey, Fortune 500 company over here, we're new. There's still a chance this won't work perfectly all the time. There's a chance that it's going to be overly sensitive and the AI is flagging too much. It'll get better over time. We've set that expectation that they know that. So now they've expected that.
Yeah.
When you're starting your company, there's nothing wrong with telling someone, you're one of my first clients. I would appreciate your honest feedback. Ask them to be critical of you in a nice way. Don't tell me I suck, but like, I welcome your feedback. And I think people appreciate that. And if you're a good person and they can see that you're genuinely there to help them, whether it's on a one-to-one service type business, whether it's something like us on larger scale, they actually want to help you. It's amazing how people, oh my God, Jake, I would love to help give feedback and help make you better at this. And, you know, our philosophy here is if one of my clients tells me we could have done something better, well, chances are other clients of mine would have that same feedback. So shouldn't I listen to them so that now the other client gets that better product? And if you keep trying to get better every day, like you're never there. You're never going to arrive. I don't care if our company does $10 million in revenue this year or $1 billion in revenue. We still haven't arrived. We're still growing. We can always get better. And I think it's okay to tell people, I'm new. I'm just getting started. How can I be better for my next client or for you next time around?
So good. And in the world of influence and sales, that's called pre-framing.
Yeah.
You know, your pre-frame, like I say, pre-frame is the name of the game. You can do that for business, for your relationship. If you're going to have to give the bad news, pre-frame them. Say, I'm about to give you the bad news. Yeah. That will either one, they'll say, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Or number two, they're able to brace impact.
And you know,
you just did that for
they
your
also
people.
appreciate the honesty. You know, me and you were talking before about, you know, your social media comes off as real. And I think that's why you have such great followers that like what you're doing. And when you're honest with people about your own shortcomings, like, look, I'm not perfect. None of us are. None of us all have the answers. That just helps show even more that you're real, you're authentic, and it's going to make people gravitate towards wanting to be around you versus that guy that tries to fake like they have all the answers. Because none of us do. So let's just say we don't have all the answers.
So good. Well, you know, people are listening to you right now, and we just hit it off from the ground running, talking about this incredibly big company. I mean, I'm assuming your big goal is to get acquired. I mean, you're working with all these sports teams, you're working with corporations, Fortune 500s, but that's not who you always were. And you kind of actually came from a very interesting come up and struggle of maybe not many people know about. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I you know, in a larger series, I mean, I was a longtime fitness industry guy, but I was always an entrepreneur. When I was 20 years old, I owned a deli, which is weird, you know, making steaks and hoagies and slicing lunch meat.
Didn't you have like a news article you shared with us?
Yeah,
on that?
I just shared it. I'll send the picture. You can post it up on this. But it was a picture of me. I was also a volunteer firefighter back then and an EMT. And I'm in my fireman uniform slicing lunch meat. And I think the headline says, you know, saves lives.
Pull it up. Yeah,
saves lives and makes a great hoagies, I think what it was.
He shared this headline. I was like, man, they actually had headlines like this on the newspaper.
They can zoom in on that later and I'll send it over to them. But
what does it say, the headline?
College student turns entrepreneur, Springfield firefighter EMT, TJ Colaiezzi, saves lives and makes a tasty hoagie.
Dude, I honestly didn't know that there would be newspaper headlines like that. Because that's like the typical, like, you know, going from broke to 7 figures a year. Like, it's like you see that.
And it's so funny. My cousin just sent me that. I forgot that article even existed. But what I loved about, and let me tell you, I was a horrible deli owner. It was a horrible failure. I was not a good deli entrepreneur. One of my favorite quotes I ever heard was Mark Cuban always says, you only have to be right once. And I'm so glad that I failed so many times in my entrepreneurial journey along the way, because all those failures I learned from. And I'm really glad that this one came after all my failures so that I don't mess this one up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I had a great, from that to then being a longtime fitness industry executive. And then when I wanted to start this company, most people I get why most people that are entrepreneurs, start something in their parents' basement or garage, because you have no money at the beginning. And if you're a 21-year-old kid with no real responsibilities, it's a lot easier than me, being a husband and a father and having responsibilities at home.
And already making probably a good salary.
Yeah,
working these companies.
when I decided to start this company, I mean, I wasn't rich by any means, but for most people's standards, I had a good 6-figure income. I probably made around $200,000 a year. I mean, that's a decent living.
Yeah.
And when I started this company, my wife at the time was pregnant with our second daughter. We already had a 3-year-old, and she was probably 3 or 4 months pregnant with our second daughter. And I came home from work from my good paying job. And this is a story I like telling, that I didn't ask my wife first if I should quit my job or not, or if I could have permission to quit my job. I just did it. And that probably sounds like hard. Vinny's looking at me, a married guy, like, bad marital advice, bro. And it probably is. And I don't encourage people to do that. But the reason I did that was because no one's going to stop me from building my own dreams. And if I know that's what's best for me and my family, it was almost a test to see if my wife believed in me as much as I did.
And did she?
Did my wife say, what is wrong with you? I mean, she's still with me 4 years later. And what's crazy is I don't remember the exact interaction when I said, hey, honey, I left my good paying job and we're going to start a tech startup. And I know nothing about technology. It's not like I'm some coder and know stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
But she immediately believed in me. And that was, you need so many reminders along the way as an entrepreneur, because there's so many hard times, that you can do this, that I think from the beginning that my wife didn't say, you're out of your effing mind, go get your job back. And my wife didn't work. I was the only income person for our house. For her to say, you know what? If there's any crazy SOB that can do this, it's you, honey. Let's do it. Like I almost needed that from the beginning to prove that, I mean, I should do this. It is the right decision.
Would you say you had like absolute certainty when you told her that? Like, cause you already obviously had some sort of certainty when you were like, I'm not going to even tell her, I'm just telling her that I'm already done. But like, were you in a state of like certainty when you shared that?
No. I was pretty certain she was gonna back me on this. But my wife, anyone that knows her, I love her to death. Kristen, hi. She's a pretty fiery Italian woman that speaks her mind and like will speak before she thinks and scream and yell. And it's just how she loves, is through screaming and yelling. So yeah, I was a little scared.
So you were probably expecting her to just rip you.
I was kind of almost expecting her to rip me. And because look, for me, I was like, am I making the right decision? But when she didn't, that was the certainty I needed, that I made the right call.
Why didn't she? Like, did you talk to her about that?
No, I think she just believed in me. I think she always knew, though I loved working in the fitness industry, I wasn't working up to my true potential. I always used to tell her I can make a lasting impact on the world. I'll never forget when I was a little kid, I had this like picture frame that my parents had on my desk in my room. On one side, it was my first Holy Communion picture. And on the other side was this thing about the word Thomas. My first name's Thomas. And it was talking about like the meaning of the word Thomas. And it listed people like Thomas Jefferson and all these other people. And the last thing on it, it said, a man with the name Thomas will leave his mark on the world. And I always believed that from a little kid, which also goes to show like it's amazing what you put in front of your kids,
the power
what they
of
like retain and learn.
Words.
So I think she always knew I had a goal to do something bigger than that. But I just think also my passion for the idea that I had came out. But also going back to why I think LifeBrand is easy for people to get behind and understand. It's such a simple solution to such a big problem. When we won a pitch competition with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, and it was not on Shark Tank, it was a separate thing through him and a company called Start Engine. He said, this is such a simple solution to a big problem. And people can get it right away. And I think my wife, she's a little bit younger than me. I'm 41 right now. She's 32. So at the time she was probably like 28, right in that prime of people that are on social media. She saw the problem that was out there. She's like, oh my God, TJ, this is a massive problem that needs a solution. And I think she just knew I've always been a resilient person. But I mean, starting it, you talk about the struggles starting a company. I mean, it was not easy. We put our life savings into starting this company. It's funny, even like some friends of mine that have followed along the journey on social media, it's been over 4.5 years since we started the company, but the past 2, I think people have started to notice what we're doing.
Yeah.
We've,
They're
made
definitely
some
noticing
traction.
you now.
And everyone just thinks it happened overnight. And oh man, he got lucky. I mean, you have no idea what we went through
Yeah.
to start this.
Let's touch into that in a second because there's a few things I want to pack. So really quick, that thing that you had on the wall, it said Thomas's are what?
The name Thomas is meant to leave an impact on the world.
And did Kristen ever see that personally?
I don't think so. I think that just came through me as a person.
Amen. That is what I wanted to drive home for you listening right now. Like, that is why knowing who you are, ingraining that into your subconscious mind, doing your affirmations, or like I talk about declarations. The biggest thing between affirmation and declaration, affirmations, I am is the most powerful things. But if you don't believe I am happy today, like let's say you're going through a divorce, that's going to cause that little voice in the back of your head to say, you're not happy, stop lying to yourself. But a declaration is saying, I choose to be happy even in the toughest of times. You could always have a choice even in the toughest of times. And that's the beautiful thing. So you ingraining that every day, you seeing that, especially imagine your kids, what are they seeing? What are they watching? What are they hearing? Like that stuff, Kristen never saw that. So she wasn't like, oh, I know he's believing that and seeing that every day.
Right.
It comes through your essence.
I think naturally through your essence. Yes.
Literally do these things that it's the invisible compounding where you don't think that these affirmations are working. You don't think the morning routine, the grind, the hustle is showing off, but like that's the essence that comes through. And that's why people believe in your mission. And such a great example. I just wanted to really extract that. But I also wanted to really go into this story about with the Kevin O'Leary and how that happened. So start off with like, because your business was about to take off 2020 and March, and that crazy things happened. Talk about that, and then talk about Kevin O'Leary.
In the spring of 2020 when, COVID hit and, the world kind of shut down, we were about 2 years into this. It was just me and my co-founder, Gemma, who's now our chief operating officer, who was working for free. She wasn't getting paid. I wasn't getting paid. We had maybe a couple dollars in our business bank account. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was negative. And we had gone through the whole friends and family round. We did a small seed round with some of our initial investors. And we still needed more money to get that initial MVP up off the ground. And we had finally secured our first ever real investment. It was $1 million seed round.
Pretty big when you weren't making any money for
and I mean, we were happy when we would get a $25,000 investment. So $1 million was like, we can finally start building a company.
Yeah.
And it was like a Wednesday that we had agreed to everything. We had signed off on everything. That Thursday is when the stock market plummeted through the ground. And that investor from that group called me back and was like, hey, like, sue me if you need to. We lost all of our dry powder overnight. We can no longer do the investment. We still believe in what you're doing, but maybe another time. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I lost $1 million overnight.
What were you really feeling at that time?
I thought that was it. I mean, I really thought and then you're watching the news, states are closing down, schools are closing, businesses are closing. And our go-to-market strategy that spring was to attend all the HR and tech shows that all then started getting canceled. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Like, I just lost $1 million. There's no way I can raise money during a pandemic. It just kind of, we didn't know what to do. So, me and Gemma kind of regrouped.
Yeah.
We're like, look, all we can do is just create content online that we can create for free. There's like this video of me in my home office, and it was just what your boss sees at work. And it was me diligently typing. And then it was what your boss sees on your social media. And it was me headbanging, smoking cigarettes, taking shots, trying to make a funny video.
Yeah.
And it kind of gained some traction. People saw it. But, the crazy thing that happened was we kept going. Even though every sign pointed towards we should stop.
How was that with Kristen?
Really hard. Oh, at the time, we'd already borrowed money from my parents, from her parents. I remember, my birthday's April 8th. So, and this was back when people didn't really know what COVID was and keep kids away from the elderly. So, not that my parents were that old, but they came over and just watched the kids play in the backyard for my birthday from the car in the driveway. And I had to call my mom before they came because I was too embarrassed to say it to my dad. But I was like, Mom, when you come, can you please bring me $200? I need to buy groceries. Because I couldn't even buy groceries for our kids. So it was really hard. We'd already, I mean, I remember there would be times my wife would come home and she'd be like, "Where's such and such?" And I'd be like, I took it to a pawn shop and sold it. I sold anything from our home that had any value, watches of mine, anything I own that you could possibly get $10 for or $15 for. At times it was just to get $10 there was times I would have to sell my laptop. I'm like, all right, so how am I running a tech company with no computer just to buy me a couple weeks until we could pay some bills?
What kept you guys together during that time? Thank you for sharing that.
I think what kept me and her together during that time was like we still had this joy of two beautiful young kids at home.
Aw.
That like we knew ultimately it would be. It's actually funny that she's calling me as we're talking about this.
Hey, Kristen, shout out to you, Kristen.
I don't know. I think somehow we knew it would always work out. I'm someone that always tries to look at the positive in things. That I'm like, you know what? I'm working from home right now. Most dads or working moms don't get to have breakfast with their kids 7 days a week. And because I'm working from home, I get this awesome time with my kids that I wouldn't have had. I can go outside and play in the middle of the day. So we took the positive in it. But very quickly during that pandemic, when people were working from home and spending way too much time on social media, people were like, if you remember, day drinking and having drinks for breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Drinking too much, spending too much time on social media. It's a bad combination. So next thing you know, people started oversharing on social media. We then went through all that tension that summer, not just from the pandemic, but like the racial tension in our country from what happened with George Floyd. Yeah. And again, people sharing opinions one way or the other, going too far in their opinions.
Very strong opinions.
And what we thought would kill our business, COVID, actually proved to be, and I want to word this in the right way. I mean, COVID by no means was a good thing. But for proving why people needed our company, it actually was a blessing in disguise because it proved to people why people are dumb on social media.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we started getting phone calls from folks that were interested. But also, I think it goes back to what really helped us get to that point that we could present to Kevin O'Leary and get out of that pandemic was, I think when you always do the right thing and surround yourself with good people, we needed another $180,000 to finish building our MVP, which we all know stands for minimal viable product.
You mean we weren't going to build you up?
I did not need $180,000. I need way more than that to fix me. So, we still needed $180,000 and I was out of options. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's no way I can raise money. So I called our tech partners in Prague, Oaks Lab. That was our initial outsource partner that we still work with to this day, and was like, guys, I'm out of money. There's no way I can come up with the last $180,000. Everything we just did was for nothing. I'm sorry. I guess stop the project. Like, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I had literally reached a point where there was what I thought nothing I could do. And I think anyone that's trying to build something great, whether it's a tech company, whether it's an individual business, you need other people around you that kind of, when you're at those low points, because there's going to be low points, help you. And the founders of Oaks Lab, Jake and Theo, they're like, you know what, TJ, we believe in what you're building. We actually believe that if we can get you a working MVP, you'll get the traction that you need, you'll get the investors that you need, and the sky's the limit. We're going to float you the last $180,000. Line of credit, we'll build it for you. We'll figure out how you're going to pay us back later. But we feel like if we build it, you'll make it. And that was in maybe July. In August, then, that investor that had to back out in March was so impressed with how we just kept trugging along. He said, you know what? We're going to do the investment now.
Oh, my God.
So we got our $1 million investment.
So those people that, hold on really quick on that and continue. Those people that give you the $180K basically floated that over. That was all just because they believed in you? They
believed in our product, but something they said over and over again to me during those couple months that passed and after that was, TJ, we believed in you. You should have given up, and you just keep finding a way. So right after they floated us that money and shortly before we got that investment, one of our early investors that had invested a little bit of money into our seed round saw online somewhere that Start Engine, and for those of you that aren't familiar with Start Engine, it's an equity crowdfunding site. So it's kind of like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but instead of you getting perks, you can get equity in a company. And it's a way for companies to raise money from non-accredited investors in small amounts. You can invest $5 into a company if you want. And he was like, oh, they're having their first ever pitch competition to Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. And I was
From
like,
Shark Tank, for anyone that
yeah.
you know, with Mark Cuban and all of them.
And I was like, Chris, that's the name of our investor. I'm like, Chris, there's no way we're going to get picked for this. He's like, and again, sometimes you need other people to keep pushing you.
Yes.
He's like, TJ, what does it hurt to apply? If you don't make it, you don't make it. It's going to take you 10 minutes to fill out the application. So I filled out the application, sent it in, didn't hear anything from a little bit. And then all of a sudden I get an email back from Start Engine that nearly 1,500 people applied for the pitch competition. You're one of the 20 finalists to be interviewed to maybe make it to the 5 that actually present to him. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So I do it virtually through Zoom because, again, you know, we're in the middle of COVID. And I thought it went really well. They really, like almost everyone else, loved our idea. They loved the story. And then I didn't hear anything from them. So I'm like, oh, man, kind of a little bummed. When I thought I didn't have a chance, I didn't care. But then when I was down to the last 20,
now it's like, oh, you're all in.
Yeah, I wanted to make it. And then I got an email on a Saturday morning. Congratulations, you're one of the 5 finalists to pitch Kevin O'Leary. You pitch him on Friday. So I had 6 days notice. And again, going back to just how crazy all this is, at the time, we were just starting to try to grow as a company. Mm-hmm. We were working out of a small shared workspace that was closed for COVID. So I'm like, and this pitch competition had to be virtual because of COVID. I'm like, where can I film this? I can't do it at my house. I got 2 kids running all around. I got 2 dogs that bark at anything that goes by. I'm like, where can I create a studio to pitch Kevin O'Leary? Because like, got to do it right. I'm a big believer in like, get the right sound equipment, get the right lighting, get the right cameras. Like all that matters if you're trying to convey something and sell something. So again, we had no money. A friend of mine happened to be the manager of this, or marketing manager of this big entity that owns a bunch of stuff. They have a couple of hotels. Okay. So she's like, look, we'll give you one of our suites in one of our hotels for free for the week. Set up your production studio in there, pitch in there. So here I am in this hotel room, and you know, we had like 1 employee, 2 employees at the time. And we were interviewing for some of our first employees. Like, you know, you guys here, our producers here know Jill and Lauren. They were actually meeting me at the hotel restaurant to interview while me and Gemma, our chief operating officer, were setting up everything for the
whatever
thing.
It takes.
Yeah, you kind of do whatever it takes. And then, you know, we pitched Kevin O'Leary on this Shark Tank style. It wasn't Shark Tank, but same kind of style. You know, you get 5 minutes to present, and then he grills you. Everyone goes, and at the end, he picked a winner for the competition. You won a $10,000 grant from him, which, you know, looking back now, people are like, well, what'd you do with 10 grand? I'm like, you have no idea how big of a deal 10 grand was back then. Like, it kept the lights on for a couple more weeks. But had Oaks Lab not extended us that $180,000 line of credit, I wouldn't have had a working MVP. I wouldn't have been able to present to him. No. I wouldn't have been able to present it to some of our initial clients to be able to tell him, yes, we do have clients lined up. You know, and like you're so nervous on TV, like I started to throw, but like we had about 80,000 in monthly recurring revenue through our people that once it was working would have worked. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have had that without the MVP.
So beautiful.
And then I was just going to be happy to be on the thing. Because just to have sound bites of me talking to Kevin
you already
O'Leary,
knew there was going to be a win-win.
I didn't need to win. Yeah. I just needed to be on it. And then we ended up not only winning the pitch competition, which was, for me, the most surreal moment. I remember almost right after that, just like breaking down, crying. Because like all the emotion, it was all the people that, though I had people that supported me, like my wife and Oaks Lab, there's also everyone else in the world saying, you're nuts. Like, what do you think, you're going to build some tech company? No, you're not. It was that like moment of, and you're always doubting yourself. Mm-hmm. That was that moment of, no, I built something here that the world needs. Like, Kevin O'Leary picked me out of 15, and some of the other finalists that were presenting were incredible. But there's no way I'm beating these
And I'm
companies.
assuming, too, in that moment, because you probably were thinking, I don't even have an office. I barely have a team. We're not going to have traction. Like, are we going to just look like fools comparatively maybe to these other 4 that have standards and systems ready going? Like, was that going through your mind?
No, what was really going through my mind wasn't so much that. It was just that they had such great companies and products. And I thought they were further along than us.
Yes.
But going back to what we talked about earlier, like being real, I think they almost tried showing they were more than they were instead of saying like, now we're still kind of new here. Like I was very upfront about that with that. Wow. But what was, to me also great was not only did he validate our product, he went on and on about me as an entrepreneur And anyone that watches Shark Tank knows, he's not always the nicest to the entrepreneurs. He was like, you knew your numbers. You had the perfect pitch that I always say, the 3 things you need, which is, knowing your numbers, and, kind of went through the whole thing. So he not only validated our product, he validated me, which was, I think we all need that for ourselves, that self-validation that, all right, I am not bad at this. Like maybe I am.
Especially when it's coming from Kevin O'Leary. Like,
I mean, he even ended it at the end, which is I thought one of the coolest things. He said, I got to stop. I'm giving you too big of a head. And I'm like, I can't believe Kevin O'Leary just said that to me. But then him and I ended up going on Yahoo Finance a couple weeks later, talking about our product. And it was such a huge turning point for our company. That $1 million that we had raised was only supposed to be $1 million round. We then ended up oversubscribing that round by another $1 million. I turned down over $8 million worth of investments because I couldn't take it at our current valuation. And there was the good and bad from that. It brought us all this attention, but it's like, oh, we're still not ready for all this. Like we're still a 5-person company that didn't have an office.
So what do you do with that just strategically for, not many people are going to get to that point where they're going to raise money, but your story, like I don't even need to break it down. That is a freaking like rocky story. That is, and it's eventually going to be a Netflix, show, a documentary. Like it is chills down my back, my friend. Like thank you for sharing that. But I was going to ask really quick, and then please add on that.
Yeah.
When you I want to understand this because I've never been there before yet. But like you already got $1 million over that you were asking for. You had to turn down $8 million. What do you tell those people? Like, do you say, hang tight, let me grow more, then I'm going to take your money, or
good
you
question,
can bring it back?
Because I was never in a situation like that before. Man, I'd have been happy with $8 6 months before that. Like, man, if I could just go buy myself a hoagie and a bag of chips. But what I told those people was, hang tight. I think we just proved we're onto something. Maybe we'll be going on and doing a Series A sooner than we thought. And, we ended up closing that round in the fall of 2020. And by the spring of 2021, we were opening up our Series A that took the valuation of our company from $5 million pre-money to $110 million pre-money. And we've now successfully oversubscribed that Series A round. And don't get me wrong, we're still learning as we go. We still make a ton of mistakes. And then, it went from over this past year growing so fast to going from, 5 employees to, 60 globally and moving into this beautiful new office space that we're in, like trying to figure it all out, like trying to figuring out like what our accounts payable and accounts receivable procedures look like, or how we even do stuff like that.
Ready,
how we manage
fire,
that.
Ready, fire, aim is what I say. Ready, fire, aim.
And, we made a lot of mistakes over the past year, but I always tell people, I think we've made the appropriate amount of mistakes that any startup's supposed to make.
Yes.
I even, when we had our annual board of directors meeting in May, I don't try to make it like we're perfect and we've done everything right. We've made the appropriate amount of mistakes that any startup should probably make. I think we've been able to manage those mistakes though, because I'm a really big believer in surrounding ourselves with the best people possible. And I have told almost every investor that's invested in our company, I have told almost everybody that works for us, like on our high level C-suite, if you put us in a boardroom with our C-suite executives, so, our chief operating officer, chief technology officer, product officer, with our advisory board and with our board of directors, I am without question the most uneducated and unexperienced person in that room. And that's not a shot at my own ability or intelligence. I mean, I'm good at what I do, but I'm always trying to elevate the people around me and surround myself with the best. I'm not intimidated by bringing good people around me. I think a lot of people that try to start their own company or want to be a CEO want to be able to pound their chest and say, I'm the CEO and I'm the best. And they're actually intimidated by other people that can add value. Because what if that person takes my job one day? I mean, I hope Gemma, our chief operating officer, takes my job and is the CEO here one day.
Yeah.
If she's better fit for it, or like I always tell people, if we go to do we're going to be doing a large, probably Series B in the next year or so, where we're going to raise a significant amount of money from big time institutional, institutional raises. If they came to me and said, hey, TJ, you've done an admirable job. You've taken this company from where it was. It's now worth, I don't know, by that point, maybe $500 million or $1 billion, like unbelievable job. But for us to go from $1 billion to $5 billion or a $10 billion valuation, we need to bring in some experienced executive from such and such. I'd be okay with that. I mean, I would ask our other people if they agree with that. I'd ask our board. I'd ask our C-suite. But It's not about me saying I'm the CEO, I'm the man.
Take the ego
I
aside.
have a responsibility to our investors that to date now have given us almost $25 million. I have a responsibility to our 60 employees, the families that they support, the children that they have, to do the best possible thing for everybody, because all of our employees have equity in the company. Obviously, our investors have equity in the company. If somebody else can make their money or the value of our company go up 3, 5, 6x, whatever it is, I need to do that. And that is what being a good leader is, not forcing yourself to be that person. I'm okay with that. I'll still be the president. I'll be the face of the company. You want me to travel around and talk to everybody? I'll do it.
Yeah.
But maybe I am the guy that takes it all the way. I think being able to adapt, and if you keep surrounding yourself with great people and doing the right thing, like Oaks Lab gave me that $180,000 line of credit because they believed in me, and I kept doing the right thing, and I didn't quit. And I tried taking care of them when I could. I tried being as upfront with them as I could. When I'm like, all right, I got no more money. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
The more people you surround yourself with, and if you do the right, like you need help and breaks along the way. I'll leave you with this. I'm a big believer in the acronym. People always say luck. You got to get lucky. There's some luck that's got to be involved in business. And I don't think it's luck. I think it's the acronym for luck, which is laboring under correct knowledge, LUCK, laboring under correct knowledge. When you labor under the correct knowledge that's given to you by folks that maybe you're following, maybe you're coaching somebody and you're helping give them that correct knowledge to follow, or I'm helping give them that correct knowledge. When you labor under correct knowledge, you get lucky. If you keep doing the right things over and over again, you get quote unquote lucky. You don't get lucky if you're not doing the right things or laboring and putting in the work, putting in the effort. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
One question to on top of what you just said is, there's going to be people that are growing massively, whether it's presence, following, opportunities, money, investors in companies. If you are an investor, you mentioned how you're going to do whatever it takes to obviously give this money to the investors, back to them, grow it, bring in the right people. What's your standards or mindset or even like practicality to make sure that the money doesn't come over the values or the ethics of the company overall? Because we've seen that happen with many companies.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing. Even growing and bringing the money in at the right time. For example, we had the opportunity a year ago to integrate with some really big companies out there. ADP, ADP is one of the biggest payroll companies out there. They have like over 700,000 clients. We could have integrated and been on their marketplace, been exposed to 700,000 clients, been able to integrate directly through their dashboard. We weren't ready for it. And though we would have got sales from it last year that would have made our investors happy, that we would have had more revenue last year, that revenue would have been a one-time deal because they wouldn't have renewed. We weren't ready for that type of exposure. Balancing those things is tough, but also I think if you go in and balance the expectations and you can speak intelligently to investors or board members about, hey, look, maybe we didn't hit this particular goal we wanted to hit, but this is why. But because we didn't do this, we did hit this. Or now we're going to hit that first thing, but even better, with better retention. I think being able to look ahead is important, but I think also surrounding yourselves with, we were very fortunate when we were raising money. Look, there were some people that were like, oh no, I'm not into it. Raising money is not easy. But when you talk to most people that go out and raise money and they say, hey, look, you might get, 2 yeses for every 100 people. We had people that were interested in what we were doing. And to some extent, once we got over that hump, we're able to dictate who we wanted to work with. For example, there was a lunch that we had, my chief operating officer, Gemma, and I, about a year ago, with somebody that was interested in investing $5 million into our Series A. And this was before we'd even raised a lot of money in our Series A. Man, the guy was such a jerk off. I mean, he was just like that one lunch. I couldn't stand him. And I was like, I can't be in business with this guy. Like I risked everything for me and my family to be my own boss. And what I learned is you're never your own boss. I answer to a board. I answer to investors. I answer to my employees, and that's fine. That. But like, if I can help it, I'm going to make sure I have good investors around me. And something else we did that was really strategic when we did that Series A, we have institutional investors that invested, but we've also just brought in a lot of really good strategic individual accredited investors that have built their own companies, that know the pains of building it, that'll understand if we have a bad month or a bad quarter because they've been there. They started at the ground of a company and worked their way all the way up to the CEO. So
you've had their decades of experience right there at your
I get their experience, but I also have their empathy for what it's like. I mean, it's not easy building a company like this. There's always going to be things that derail you. Things happen along the way. One of the things I tell entrepreneurs all the time is like, life still happens when you're building a company. I still had our second daughter that I had to take care of building this company. I unfortunately lost my father while we were doing this. I then, less than a year after losing my father, lost our third daughter at birth. Those are things that most people don't want to come back to work for a really long time. And you have to, like you have to overcome those things and then it's balancing that responsibility of like, my wife needs me because we lost our daughter, but my investors need me too. There's 30 or 40 families that work for us that have kids, that their kids are reliant on us being there and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So it's really tough along the way, but when you surround yourselves with investors and board members and C-suite that are good people, that are compassionate people, that when you do right by them, and because they're good people, they're going to help you through, those hard times. One of our investors, Pete here, his father, I think every day for months after we lost my daughter, he just would send me a text every morning, thinking of you, praying for you. Hope you and your wife are enjoying the day. And still, I mean, we're a year later. Maybe it's not every day anymore, but it's once or twice a week. Hey, still thinking of you. Like, to have an investor that's saying that, not get your ass back to work, and though I was back here and the company's obviously still growing and doing well, but having good people around you really is necessary.
What would be like one tip for someone that's maybe they're not in the size or position dealing with multiple millions. Maybe they're just broke 6 figures or getting close to breaking 7 figures in their business, got an employee or two, but they do have family. They have a girlfriend or a spouse, and they're going through a similar situation. What would be one tip to actually strategically balance, quote unquote, or have that rhythm, as I'd rather say, with the personal life and the business, as there's both growth on both sides?
See, like, I'm a big believer, and you kind of went away from the word balance to rhythm. I don't think there is such a thing as like work-life balance. I think if you love what you're doing, you're happy. I mean, I spend way more time working than I guess people would say if you want an equal balance, but I don't feel like I'm out of balance. My wife and kids don't feel like we're out of balance. I think what's really important is, though, that family always comes first. You might be at work a lot, but there has never been a time here that one of our employees has said, I got to go pick up my kid. She's sick, or my kid's sick. Can I stay home? Or, my grandmom is in the hospital. She's old. I don't know, leave work and go see your grandmom. You never know if it's the last time. And I think if you always put family first and make it a priority to make sure people take care of their family first, when you need to be there taking care of your family, they'll be there. For example, our chief operating officer, when I lost my daughter last year, she was on her honeymoon. She ended up working her entire honeymoon because I couldn't be at work that week.
That's freaking amazing.
And not only did she work her entire honeymoon, yes, Gemma.
Shout out to you, Gemma.
Not only, and also shout out to her husband, DC, who did not divorce her for working her entire honeymoon. Like, because I think, though she knows I would give her that same thing back, he knows that I would give them that same thing back. So I think if you try your best to take care of the people that work for you, so that they know their families always come first, but that their families know that they're first in my eyes. When I need their help, they'll allow their significant other to be first.
Would you say that's like the values of the company? Like if someone's like still trying to figure out their values, they need to sit down and extract what is their values. Like, is it always, for me, like I talk about my values, the top 2 first, because it matters which one's first or not, is heart-centered leadership and then results-driven outcomes, right? But that I had to extract, because even if I have a few VAs, I show that to them, I teach that to them. This is the values I have, but this is also how I lead. So I hope they do the same. Where if it was results-driven outcome first, I would look at her on her honeymoon and be like, hey, like, look, I need you to work because we need to get the results. And I know you're there, but instead it's like, no, you don't have to work if you don't have to. Like, because that's heart-centered first, right? But
I'm not going to ask you to. She wanted to, because she knew I would do the same thing for her if she was going through a hard time.
So have you extracted values like that before, or like to build this company, or what would you?
I think just from the very beginning, we've always tried to make it really clear that, family always comes first. And also part of a way of putting your family first is working hard, because everyone here has an opportunity. Everyone here is an owner of this company. Every single employee has equity in this company. Cool. every single employee in this company has the opportunity to go home a millionaire when we sell this thing. And if you're hiring the right people, that should motivate people. And you look, we have a lot of, we're in tech. We have a lot of young folks that work for us, that this could be life-changing money for their families, for their kids. You can pay off a house cash. You can buy a vacation house. We're not there yet, but we will be, hopefully, not hopefully, we will be there one day.
Yeah.
And I think that helps, that, part of putting family first is also working hard.
Yeah.
But I think if you show, and, like we've had times where people have, again, maybe not had a family member die, but was sick, go take off. And they're like, really? Yeah, it's not PTO. Like, go be with that person. I think another part that's really important is people ask us all the time if we're like at work or if we're hybrid or what's going on in this new world. And I don't say we're any of those things. I like to say we're workplace flexible. I do believe there's value and look, there's some jobs you can work remote. I get it. But when you're creating and innovating something big and new and special, there's value to all of us being under one roof, collaborating with each other, talking with each other. Some of the best ideas for our product come over pizza at lunch that wouldn't have happened on a scheduled Zoom call.
Or a hot shower, after work.
Right.
And you get those aha moments.
So like I do want our employees in the office, but ones that live further away can work at home on Mondays and Fridays.
Yeah.
We all work from home on Fridays because again, where we live, a lot of people like to go to the mountains or the beach on the weekends. So this way they can get a head start against traffic, go down Thursday night, work from wherever they are Friday. But also what that workplace freedom means is, we have a lot of moms that work here. Some of them are single moms that would have had to have a babysitter take their kid. If they had to be at work by 9:00 and stamp a clock at, a time card at 9:00. Well, if you got to drop your kids off at 9, you get here at 9:35. You can come in at 9:35.
Yeah.
If you need to leave at 3 to get your kids from school instead of staying here till 5, you can leave at 3. So I know those are the same people that are still answering emails and working 8:00, 9:00 at night on the weekends. We really have a good culture here of getting good people, trusting them to do their job.
Yeah.
Do your job when it makes sense. You don't need to sit here and stare at a clock till 5 p.m. Go home when you need to. But I think, again, that flexibility, not only do they see and appreciate that, their spouse or significant other sees it, their kids see it.
Yes.
So that then when they do need to work a night or a weekend or travel for a week, their significant other or kids understand that because they respect that we gave them that freedom. So now they need to give us a little bit back too.
So good. Yeah. And you listening right now, like if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, like these are values he's sharing. Like you're sharing the values, which is family means everything. You're flexible as long as they get the results done, I'm assuming, but like You're not holding them regimented. Like the times have changed. So like take this knowledge, this wisdom, and next time you hire a VA or you have your first employee or your 10th employee, like you don't need to have them so regimented, like have standards, but let there be flexibility because no one wants to be in a prison, right? Just open up the barrier so big that they're free range doing whatever they want, but there is still some barriers, but it's so far they don't look like barriers. They're just fences.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, hiring the right people and also noticing that, like, I'm a big believer that experience doesn't mean anything. Now, look, if you're going to be a nurse, yeah, you got to have the experience. You got to have the education for it.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a data scientist for us or a software engineer, yeah, you need to know data. You need to be able to write code. But for the overwhelming majority of positions in a company, people always ask me when we're interviewing someone, do you want the resume? No, I don't care. Why? Anyone can fake a resume. What I care about are two things, work ethic and personality, because they're the only two things you can't fake. And they're the only two things you can't teach somebody. You can teach any reasonably intelligent person how to do almost any job out there. But work ethic and personality, people learn long before they're old enough to enter the workforce. So if you hire people with a good personality, good work ethic, you can teach them how to do the rest. And then chances are you're more aligned with that, because I can't stand people with bad work ethic.
Yeah.
And anyone with a good personality can sell something or can help and brand a company. They just have a good personality and they're willing to talk about it. I mean, it's not that hard.
Dude, drop the mic on that. Those two things, like hearing it from a man that's about to have a multi-billion-dollar exit and just blessing so many people's lives. Like we overthink those two things, work ethic and personality.
Really simple. It's not that hard.
So good. As we get close to the end of the show here, we do have a lot of people that maybe are very, very new to investing. Even myself, I'm pretty new to it. It's like I haven't personally experienced it. I've been around a lot of people that way. But can you just break down for someone that doesn't really understand this process of investing? You're mentioning Series A, Series B, like all these things. Like just break down 60 seconds or less. What does this investment process look like from being a startup or being a new company to the ultimate exit?
Yeah, I think if you're a company that is a startup that's going to need to raise capital or raise money, it kind of typically goes down a couple things. You start with doing a friends and family round.
Okay.
And the theory on that is later stage investors will invest in you if your friends and family believed in you. But if your friends and family didn't believe in you enough to give you money, then I, as a stranger, am not giving you my money.
That's so
And I
good.
didn't know that when I started.
I didn't think about that either.
Yeah, like when I did a quote unquote friends and family round when I started, I wasn't soliciting money from my friends and family. I was just, as I was telling them what I was doing, they're like, wow, that's a great idea. Can I give you 25 grand? I think we raised $152,000 in a friends and family round. That was just people saying, I'll give you money. And then from that friends and family round, most companies, and it's different for everybody. Most companies then do a seed round. That's where you're just trying to raise enough money. Like the friends and family round helped you kind of get the idea off the ground, maybe an MVP built. But then that seed round is what allows you to get some initial traction, maybe hire a couple people. People do seed rounds one of two ways. Some of them will do it through institutional investors, venture capital firms that specialize in investing in seed rounds. Other people will do it through strategic accredited investors. And that's a key thing too. Once you get past that friends and family round, like you can't just be going and taking $5 from people, $10 from people. They need to be what you call an accredited investor, which basically means people have enough money that they can afford to lose it if it goes sour, because a lot of investments do. That they're educated enough in finances to make a strategic decision when they're doing it. And then from that seed round, again, it goes different ways, but then there's typically a Series A where a company might raise 5 million or 20 million. And that's what really takes it from like that idea and that MVP to starting to build a company, starting to prove replicatable success and metrics, starting to prove that there is market fit. Okay, I have 10 salespeople. Each salesperson we've learned is good for $1 million a year in revenue. Okay, that's replicatable now that if I go raise more money in a B round, now maybe we have 100 salespeople, good for $1 million a year in revenue. We can do 100 million. Like you're trying to find that fit. But also after that Series A round, at least from what I've experienced, that's kind of the last round you're going to get. And that's normally a mix of individual accredited investors. Sometimes it's strictly institutional investors.
Okay.
It might just be one person. We saw the value, and this goes, again, I'm not an expert here. I can't know if I should be giving advice, but like most people say, get as money from as few people as you can because it makes things easier and cleaner, less chefs in the kitchen.
Yes.
I was a believer, though, of doing the A round of, well, if they're strategic and they're smart, I want as many people around me as could make introductions and help me. So we did it a little unorthodox. And then after that A round is, we've just completed our A round. You start getting into that point of there's a fit. Like you've proven you have something here. You've proven that you have the ability to build a rocket ship or you've built one. And now you need the rocket fuel, which is the most expensive part. And then you get into what they call these growth rounds, Series B and C, where you might go raise significant capital. At this point, it's definitely just institutional investors to really raise significant money, $100 million, $200 million, to really throw that lighter fluid on it. And that's kind of where we are. We're in between that A round and that B round.
Okay.
For those people that are looking to, if they're starting the kind of company when they're going to need to raise money, the best advice I can give to them is, start early with that friends and family round and ask people for advice and get as much opinions as you can. Take every meeting you can get. It's funny. Somebody told me at the very beginning, when you ask people for money, you typically get advice. When you ask people for advice, you typically get money. And I actually found that to be really true. As I would be asking people for advice on what to do, they'd give me the advice and be like, you know what? Let me give you some money behind it. But anytime I ask for money, they give me advice as to go where to find it. But I think you got to have a good product. And I think you need to be willing to prove people why you deserve their money. There's people that want to go start a company and just go raise $1 million, but they don't want to put any of the sweat into it and the work into it. Like you need to prove why you deserve somebody's money, why they should trust you with it. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They see these stories of companies that raise all this money and they think it's like this fairy tale world. Like, I'll go raise $100 million or $1 billion and I'll be worth X. And It's no, like you gotta prove why someone should give you their money. And then each step of the way, do your best to get the best return on that investment, spend it the best way possible. And that can be different for everything that you're doing. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the series a lot of companies go through.
I mean, I learned so much through that, and you listening, I'm sure you felt the same. Like, I wanted to hear from someone that's going through it. I know you're not the expert in that, and we don't hold you to that, but you do have the practice on it. And this is also inspiring. You know, this is so inspiring on the sense of this man was just in the fitness industry, working in sales, working in the, you know, the offices and such. But like now you're running a tech company, and it's because of the passion, the dream, and, you know, like, you're listening right now, just realize that that could be you. Like if you have the hustle, the work ethic, and the personality.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you're willing to put in the work, you know,
put in the work.
And that work, you know, it doesn't have to be every day, but it's got to be a continuous thing. And, you know, one of my things, because look, it's still hard now. Like, you know, yeah, it's a lot easier than it was before, but I mean, this is stressful. There's still days that are really, really hard. And I actually wish I got this advice before, heard this advice before, but I guess maybe in some way I was doing it. But one of my favorite things is from Ed Milet. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to interview him on Dave Metzler's show, Office Hours. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners probably also listen to and follow Ed Milet and, you know, his power of one more. And when he talks about that, and I'm not going to do it service, you should listen to it from him. But, you know, the whole thing was about, you know, his father that was an alcoholic. And, you know, he asked him one day, Daddy, are you going to stay sober forever? And he said, I don't know, son, but I'm going to stay sober for one more day. And then, you know, he taught that to Ed, and Ed took that as when things are tough, just don't quit for one more day. You know, there was times where Ed was building his business and his dad would say, hey, is it hard? Are you thinking about quitting? He's like, yeah, Dad, I am. And he said, you know what? Just don't quit for one more day. And that's been my mentality, that if you can just not quit for one more day, and then tomorrow, don't quit for one more day again. Yeah. And then tomorrow, don't quit for one more day again. Things will, if you're doing all the right stuff, and again, coming back to laboring under correct knowledge, if you keep not quitting for one more day, as Ed would say, and if you're laboring under the correct knowledge that's given to you, you hanging on for one more day, eventually the things will fall into place.
So good, my friend. Well, we need to use LifeBrand. Every one of us. Like, how does someone right now listening, whether on YouTube, whether on podcasts, how do they get that free analysis, where they see that college photo where they said something they shouldn't have said, or showing something they shouldn't have shown? Where do they go?
It's super easy. Whether you're an individual that wants it for yourself, whether you're somebody that wants it for your business.
That's right. You could have it where the company, all your employees,
companies buy it for other employees. It's a great employee benefit at a low cost. Go to lifebrand.life. You can get information on the business side of it, or anybody can get a free social media health check. You can connect your social media accounts for free.
And it shows two of your posts?
We'll show you 2 of them for free.
Oh, that's exciting.
But we'll show you how many total you might have. So we'll say, look, out of your 38,000 or 3,800 posts you've ever done, 102 of them could be potentially problematic. We'll show you 2 for free. We'll show you the platform it was on, the date, if it was a picture, the picture.
Wow.
And then for a very small fee, you can upgrade to see all of them. You can choose to delete them. And look, you can choose not to also. We're not trying to say you have to delete them. We're not trying to say we're the judge and jury of what's right or what's wrong. We're just saying, hey, look, for some people, these types of posts could potentially get them in trouble. And going back to what we talked about earlier, be upfront with people. Guys, we're still new. So if you go to our website, our AI is super sensitive. We'll flag the word hell. Probably not the worst thing in the world. But our whole theory is, while our artificial intelligence is learning, we'd rather flag everything and give you the chance to delete it or ignore it than let things slip through. So yeah, we will be hypersensitive. If you're standing in a bikini with a beer in your hand, even though you're not doing anything appropriate, it'll probably say partial nudity and alcohol. We're giving you the chance that maybe it was too much. Maybe you just don't want 30 topless or shirtless photos.
I'm gonna have some partial nudity photos on there. I'm cleaning that up. That is so awesome, man. So go to lifebrand.life. Go get that. I mean, I literally want to go do that right now and see what it is. Maybe I'll put it on my social media and share, or I'll put it in the podcast. I'll figure that out. But brother, what's the best way people can find you besides the website?
Yeah, lifebrand.life or lifebrand.life on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Me personally at Tommy J. Cola.
Yeah, and follow this man, because
I need a following, guys. Help me out.
Yeah, and you got to see he puts his family first, which you'll see evidently through that, and it's really beautiful to see. I got one question. What does it mean to create your strategic life?
I think for me, what it means to create my strategic life.
Well, I don't want you to talk about Vinny.
Yeah.
I want yours.
I think to create a strategic life for me is to make sure my name leaves an impact, like we talked about earlier. But for me, it's all about leaving other people that come across me better. I want to make sure my kids are better. Again, going back to Ed Milet, he always says somebody in that family tree is going to be the one that changes that family tree.
Home.
I want to be the one that changes ours. And not that, look, we came from a great middle-class upbringing. I had great parents. Whatever we had, we needed. We didn't go on fancy, lavish vacations. We had a beat up, station wagon. But, look, if I wanted to play baseball, my parents could get me a glove. But I'm going to be the one that changes that family tree for my kids. And I just want to make sure everyone that comes across me, for me, living a strategic life is hopefully I brought, our relationship, I brought something into your life. I brought something into your listeners' lives. Vinny and Pete, I hope I brought something into their life, them working with me here. And same thing with my kids and family. I hope every one of them, just for knowing me, takes something from me that makes their life a little bit better.
Amen. You did. You definitely did. I just got to acknowledge you on this. This
Thank
has
you.
been such unique wisdom that you shared. I know a lot of people are going to be buzzing from this because there's not many other people that could speak on things like this, but not just speak on the actual facts, the ability to raise money, to build businesses, but you have so much heart within it. I really do got to say that. Like
Thank you.
I'm very impressed. I didn't think it was going to be, I feel like extremely comfortable. I think we went longer than we expected to, but because I feel so comfortable because you lead by the heart.
I feel like Vinny and Peter over there, like these cameras are going to die.
Yeah,
if you
they're
guys don't
like,
shut up.
Yeah, they're like changing
Batteries
batteries
are
over
going.
here. But I got to acknowledge you on that. And there's without a doubt reasons why you're going to be building a $1 billion company, and then you're going to be on to something next and bigger. And the most beautiful thing is it's because you put the people first. So
Appreciate that.
You inspire me. I want to
that.
build big businesses now, and yeah, man, glad to have you on the show and for having me in your studio here.
No, I'm really glad to be here and really grateful that you flew out to be with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother.
Right?
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man. Appreciate it.
All right, you heard it here on the Strategic Life podcast. We had TJ in the building. Actually, I'm in his building, but that was powerful. You might have to listen to that one again just to extract through those stories. I try to really do that for you, but there were so many good stories that just go listen to the mindset, the things that he had to do to stand out, the reason why people gave him money, even though there's nothing really to the business, is because they trusted in him. There was just so much that I get chills thinking about. So the only thing that we ask on this show is to screenshot the episode, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on any of your favorite podcast platform, and tag us, tag TJ. TJ, how do you spell your name on Instagram?
TOMMYJ Cola, COLA.
Tommy J. Cola. Tag Tommy J. Cola. Tag at J. Cavron. You could even tag at lifebrand.life.
Yep.
And just put one takeaway that you got from this. And there's got to be at least 10 of them, but just put one and tag us because we love seeing that. But also we love the increase of growth and the increase of impact and the increase of reach. And you play a part of that. We only could do so much by ourselves. It takes you. So that's our one ask. I love seeing that. I'll be restoring anyone that tags that. And also if you send us a message, I definitely will be letting TJ know what you said. So thanks for listening in. Thanks for tuning in. And until then, we'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget, create your strategic life. Talk to you soon.